This is a case that has puzzled many, and the details are just so creepy. In today's video, we will be taking a look at the case of a family that disappeared from their home overnight. That was until a school teacher named Mary Gregory did not turn up for work. And when she got to the house, she noticed that the front door was wide open. One of the beds had been slept in, but the other two hadn't. There was also no sign of a struggle, which was strange. They even searched the river nearby, but that turned up nothing. They also questioned everyone who knew the family, but no one had seen or heard from them since the day they disappeared. It was as if they had evaporated. Jill then went back downstairs and checked the backyard. The gate was also wide open, but there was no sign of the Gregorys or any intruders. For example, why was the front door open? The Gregorys always kept their doors locked. Why were only two of the beds slept in? People started to forget about it, and the media stopped covering it. But the police never gave up. This is supported by the fact that only two of the beds were slept in, and the family as belongings were still in the house. There was no evidence of any kind of accident. But why would a mother leave her job without saying goodbye? And why would she leave her children behind? It just doesn't make sense. They were well liked in the community and they had a lot of friends. If they were having problems, they would have reached out to someone for help. But there are some things that we do know. The Gregorys were a happy family. He was a 40-year-old insurance broker. He was described as being a quiet and reserved person, but he was also very loving towards his family. There was no history of domestic violence or abuse. They were also not involved in any illegal activities, so why would someone want to hurt them? They had planned to go out for dinner, but they never made it to the restaurant. The police have several theories, but they don't know what to believe. What do you think happened to them? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Instead, they were all taken from their home and their bodies have never been recovered. The documentary covers all the details of the case, and it will leave you just as baffled as everyone else. We cover all aspects of true crime, from serial killers to missing persons. You'll definitely learn something new here. The police were able to extract some DNA from the Gregorys' home, and it matched the DNA of a man named Christopher Jeffries. Jeffries died in prison in 2017. He was serving a life sentence for the murder of a woman named Anne Mount. The police have several theories, but they don't know what to believe. One theory is that the family was taken by a stranger. This is supported by the fact that the front door was open and the car was still in the driveway. But who would have done such a thing? The police have no idea. Daniel was an 8-year-old boy who was described as being a bright and inquisitive child. He loved school and he was doing well academically. Charlotte was a 6-year-old girl who was described as being a happy and sociable child. She was very friendly and she got along with everyone. She was a 36-year-old school teacher. She was described as being a kind and caring person who was always willing to help others. She was also a devoted mother and wife. She loved her family more than anything else in the world. There are also no witnesses and no evidence of a struggle. He had been convicted of the crime in 1993. Could he have killed the Gregorys as well? The police don't know. They haven't been able to link him to the crime scene, and they do and have a motive. Jeffries had been convicted of a series of sexual offenses against women in the area. He had also been a suspect in another missing persons case. Could he be connected to the disappearance of the Gregory family? The police think so. They kept searching for the missing family, but they couldn't find any evidence of what had happened to them. And where were the family's car and phones? These details didn't make sense. Whoever had taken them must have done so without waking them up, yet they hadn't taken anything with them. It was like they had planned to come back. But if that was the case, why hadn't they done so in the past 3 decades? This was unusual because the Gregorys always kept their doors locked when they left the house. Jill knocked on the door a few times, but there was no answer. So she walked in and started looking around. She checked in the kitchen, the living room, the dining room, but there was no sign of the Gregorys. It was like they had vanished into thin air. She lived in a home with her 2 children, Daniel and Charlotte, and her husband, Ian, Mel. The thing was that she had never been late to work before, and so her colleagues were starting to get worried when she still hadn't turned up by lunchtime, but there was no sign of the missing family. The police were then called and they started investigating. At first, they thought that maybe the family had gone on a vacation without telling anyone. But when they checked the house, they found out that that wasn't the case. There were no signs of any vacation or even a change of scenery. All of their clothes were still in the closet and their food was still in the fridge. It was like they had just disappeared from their home without a trace. They tried calling her home, but there was no answer. And then they decided to send one of the teachers next door to check if everything was okay. But what they found would shock them all. The day was April 1991, and it was just an ordinary day in the small town of Soham, located in Cambridgeshire, England. The teacher who went next door was a woman named Jill Bunce. Jill then went upstairs and started checking the bedrooms. By this time, other teachers had arrived, and they all started searching the neighborhood. The police searched everywhere, but they couldn't find any evidence of what had happened to the family. But there were some strange details about the case that the police couldn't ignore. As the years went by, the case grew colder and colder. But recently, the case was reopened after new evidence was found. But despite having a lead, they've hit yet another dead end. All these years later, the disappearance of the Gregory family remains a mystery. Another theory is that the family ran away together. The police also considered the possibility that the family was involved in some kind of accident, but they ruled this out after searching the area. There are many unanswered questions in this case, and the truth is that we may never know what happened to the Gregory family. We also know that the Gregorys were not the type of people who would run away from their problems. We also know that the police did everything they could to find the Gregorys, but they came up empty-handed. Despite all their efforts, the case remains unsolved. Now, let's take a closer look at the victim, Mary Gregory. Then we have her husband, Ian Gregory, and then there are their children, Daniel and Charlotte. On the day that they disappeared, the Gregorys were supposed to be celebrating their 10th wedding anniversary. It's hard to say what could have happened to the Gregory family. If you want to learn more about this case, we suggest watching the documentary titled The Disappearance of the Gregory Family on Netflix. Also, if you're a fan of true crime stories, stay tuned for more videos like this. That's all for today's video. Until next time, stay safe.